Hi, everyone. Welcome to our second virtual tasting of 2025, 1st of May. I'm delighted to welcome Amanda Barnes again, NW, who is going to be comparing today, as she always does. Brilliant job of presenting and teasing out some interesting snippets out of the winemakers that we've got gathered as we do the tasting. And then to introduce our three winemakers today, we've got Franco from Estancia, Mendoza. We've got Karim Mussi from Karim Mussi Wines, who produces our Alto Cedro, Alundes and Abras ranges. And then last but not least, we have Agustin Alcoleas from Casarena. We'll be tasting Franco's wines, two wines first, then we'll do Karim Mussi's, and then we'll do Agustin's. And very, very important, please, 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 as we're going through the tasting, do ask any questions that you've got. You've got three winemakers here live from Argentina, and they're desperate to answer any questions that you might have. So please do throw any questions that occur to you as we're going through. And Amanda will see those and she'll ask those questions for you. If you've not done one of these webinars before, we can't see you, we can't hear you, but there is a Q&A feature. So if you just type in your questions, we will see them. Without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Amanda, and let's kick things off. Thanks again.
Fabulous. I think Karim's taking a selfie. Excellent. Before we've got black teeth, because that's what Malbec is famous for. I'm looking forward to this session. We've got three brilliant winemakers, six lovely wines, and I know you've got proper barbecue weather over there in the UK today. So hopefully this is getting you in the mood for a nice asado this evening. So the topic that we've got today is magical Malbec. And I do think Malbec is actually quite magical. I just kind of want to give a bit of context before we start, because, you know, Malbec is this fascinating story of a grape variety, a Bordeaux grape variety that came to Argentina back in 1853, kind of flew under the radar, known as kind of the French grape, or cepa francesa, and really kind of thrived here because it suits the climate of the desert that we have here in Mendoza, the cool nights, the sunny, dry days. And in the 1960s, we had almost 60,000 hectares of Malbec. And then it kind of went through a roller coaster and almost disappeared. About 80% of it got completely ripped out. And by the 1990s, we had less than 9,000 hectares. So it's really interesting to kind of know this history. And then the fact that it boomed again in the 2000s to become the most planted grape variety once again of Argentina. And we have 45,000 hectares today. So I just wanted, before we kind of start talking with you, Franco, I just wanted to kind of put that context in, because I think a lot of people forget that Malbec has really gone through trials and triumphs to get to where it is today. So we're going to start with your two wines. And actually, I think part of the interesting history of Malbec is this white Malbec, which is quite an innovative product. And, you know, we're seeing, you know, I know that you were one of the kind of first to really commercially launch it in the UK, but there is a history of white Malbec. Can you tell us a bit about Blanco Escorrido and the wines that Malbec were made into back in the 80s and 70s? This kind of history of Malbec being used for other things rather than just red wine. And then perhaps you can tell us the difference with Land of Malbec and your production of white Malbec.
Good. Thank you, Amanda. First of all, I want to start, thank you for all this. This is a really nice opportunity. I mean, when we started developing this kind of product, we wouldn't have expected, I mean, we had it as an expectation, but facing this realization that our wine is halfway across the world and being tasted by people and enjoying it actually is very interesting for us. And as a winemaker, as one of the team here at Estancia Mendoza, we really appreciate this opportunity to be sharing with you this concept. And thank you for being for telling such an interesting story about the Malbec. It's something that we lived on, and yeah, it's true. When this grape was first brought to Argentina, it was over 100 years ago. And of course, what's happening today with this grape was not expected. The interesting thing about Malbec is that suits our climate very well, but it wasn't expected to be a grape that will develop high quality wines. So what happened is that we have a climate that gets very interesting during the winter season. We have hail, we have sonda wind, which is a very hot wind, and we have rain right 2 weeks before we start picking the grapes. We have a rainy season. So what Malbec does is it's a very resilient grape. with the diseases and pests, and it works really, really good. And in Mendoza, we have different climate levels, and we have different altitudes. We plant in the mountains, we plant in the lower terrains as well. So it's interesting to see how the grape develops very, very differently in all these climates. So when Estancia Mendoza is the winery that presents this wine. It's one of the biggest wineries between the Fecovita group. Fecovita is a very large company that is a leader in the market here in Argentina. So let's say about that, we have a lot of resources to work. We have a lot of vineyards, and we have a lot of grapes. And it's very interesting that we can focus in products like this, like making a white Malbec. So let me answer your question and jump right into it. Like you said, the Blanco Escurrido was the wine that was made in the 80s and 70s, was very popular because Argentina was one of the highest wine consumers in the world. So what would happen as we wouldn't have enough wine, and the criolla wines, the criolla is a grape that is from here too. What it was used to do, it was used to get rid of the color, and we did that with charcoal and a lot of different additives back in the day. And we would create a white wine out of a red grape. So yeah, it was a kind of crazy idea a few years back. Only 5-6 years back, this product didn't even existed. So what we tried to do was to try to bring back some of those practices that was done by our dads and our grandfathers, and we decided to try it on Malbec grapes. And yeah, it was a very interesting project to be working on, because we went through very different vineyards, very different grapes, very different yielding types, different altitudes, to try to create a white wine that is actually resembles a white wine, but it has a very different palate than white wine. And we did out of the Malbec. So I don't know if I'm going to be boring by telling you details about how it's made, but I can share that with you, or just tell me
I
why
think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be interesting to know, how you simply, in more kind of simple terms, how you make it white. Is it a case of kind of pressing very gently? How do you make it? Because it's not even got a hint of pink. It is a very kind of white Malbec. Tell us a little bit about the winemaking process.
Yeah, let me tell you a bit about the history of the brand, because if not, the marketing team will kill me if I don't talk about it, because they put so much heart into making this label and the history of this Malbec. So in a perspective, the Malbec is the most popular grape here in Argentina, and it's the wine that every Argentinian can relate to. The idea of making Land of Malbec was to give a perspective to the consumer of how different, how versatile the Malbec can be, and at the same time bringing like roots to our ancestors and our indigenous people. Like we feel right now that Malbec has been with us since forever. So it was a very interesting thing to, such as we're gonna make like a magic thing, making a white Malbec, putting some magic into the label and into the text, and it's a very interesting brand. Let me show you. We have 3 different wines. That's a line of Malbec, and we have the white, that is the one that you're gonna try today, the rosé, and a red. And the interesting thing about this, we picked the grape from 3 different places, because we adapted what we wanted to show about the Malbec and what we thought it was going to be interesting from the consumer to feel about this Malbec. So right now you have the luck to try the white wine. So let me jump into it and tell you how it's made. So yeah, what we do is like you said, we press very gently the whole clusters. We select the cluster and then we press very gently, and we use that juice that is going to be lightly rosé colored, because the color is located on the skins of the grape, so it's going to have a very light color of rosé. And we want to get rid of that color, not just because we want to create the white Malbec, because later on in the bottles is going to oxidize, and it's going to look very different color, and it's not going to be as beautiful and as golden like we want it to look like. So we're gonna get rid of that color, and we use activated charcoal and bentonite during the fermentation, and we give the process the fermentation very patiently, not going over 16 degrees Celsius. The idea of it is to engage the aromatic palette that we want from a white, but using a red grape. So what we get is a very interesting fruit. Let me share it with you.
Yeah, pour yourself a glass.
It's
So
really,
it's
really
fermented.
nice to open
Basically,
these bottles.
it's fermented and produced as a white wine from the red grape variety. Rachel has a question. Does this Malbec, for the white Malbec, does it come from any certain areas or regions in particular? And do you pick it earlier, harvest earlier than you would for your rosé or red, for example?
That's a very, very good question, and yes, we choose the regions. And for starters, we had like the northern province, and then we started to look for another different vineyards that can give us that. Right now we don't use a single vineyard for this wine. We choose according to the climate, according to how it's going. We want a very specific acidic profile for the wine. So yes, we pick earlier. We pick approximately this season, the 2025. That is the one that we just made. It was picked around March, around the first days of March. So it was very interesting. It's just freshly fermented, and it's looking very, very great. We have a higher alcohol this year, yeah, because it was very, very hot summer.
Super. It is very fresh and fun to drink, and I think it's a real eye opener as well for consumers to kind of we've seen some kind of white Merlot and different grapes, red grapes being used for white wines. So I think it's a nice kind of conversation starter, a fun wine to kind of bring to barbecue or party with your friends and talk about the diversity of Malbec for sure. I'm aware that we're kind of getting close on time, and I know that we've got the lovely red wine to taste as well. So I just want to remind everyone, if anyone has any questions, please do pop it on the Q&A. Any comments about the wine as well. Both of these wines that we're tasting are really great value. They're £12.30 retail or £12.49 retail for the red. So I don't know if you had any more comments about the white before we move on to our red Land of Malbec. Franco?
About comments with the white, well, no. The idea is that people can enjoy it and be sure it's 100% Malbec. And we're very proud to make this wine. And we're very proud too that it's an export wine. We roughly sell a few cases in the local market because it's a very exclusive product and it's working very well as an export product. So we're very proud of that. And thank you for being here and sharing it with us, and we hope you enjoy it. And then I don't know if you want to know if there's someone that has any questions about the wine or about how it's made or anything. I'm free to answer anything.
Perfect. Okay, I've just been told it's not this wine. We're gonna have the Progreso. We're having the Progreso.
Yes, exactly.
I got sent all 4 bottles, so I was. I'm lucky over here. So we'll move to the Progreso. I
wasn't going to correct you, so I will move just into the.
Someone has to correct me. Thank you. Archie's pointed it out too. Thank you very much. Please, if you want to present the Progreso, and I will uncork the bottle and pour myself a glass. Just one comment from Richard King here saying that he really loves the white Malbec and that's going to go on his next order. So great. I'm glad that that's going to go down well with your customers. All right, Franco, would you like to tell us about the Progreso?
Okay, thank you again. Well, the Progreso is a very interesting wine, because it's a different concept from what we wanted to do from an innovative product that is the white Malbec. What we wanted to do with the Progreso is to preserve some of the traditions that were born in the 90s when Malbec was starting to be considered as a very high quality grape, and what everything that this grape can develop and give us. So the idea of the Progreso is kind of resemble that resilience that we have with this wine, with this grape here in this country, and especially within our company, which is the single variety that we do most. So we roughly make 12 to 13 million liters of Malbec every year for all of our lines. And for the Progreso, we only make roughly 250 to 300,000 liters a year, which is a lot for a lot of wineries around the world. But for us, that we concentrate so many millions of liters, it's a small quantity. So what we aim to do with this product is to represent the Malbec, but from the consumer's perspective, from the consumer's point of view, the idea of what anyone can have about tasting a very interesting red and concentrated Malbec. We have all the fruit that you can expect from it, and we're very careful with the oak, because we don't want to put the oak before the fruit. We want to create a wine that it's very easy to represent a Malbec, and anyone who likes Malbec around the world can have this wine and be sure that it's 100% Malbec. And while we pick the name and the label, you can see an owl in the label. Owls are very popular in our vineyards. They go out at night, and when you do rounds and you are close, or just in a night shift, and you go out in the vineyards, you can see the owls flying around and catching pests or catching bunnies, and they kind of they silently protect the vineyards. It's a very interesting bird to see, because they fly in the middle of the night and you can hear them. And when you're walking at the vineyard thinking about anything else, and then an owl flies by, it's a scary thing. But
But they're very cute, the little owls here, the lechuzas. They're very small, kind of baby.
Yeah.
They're very sweet owls.
But when you see them hunting and catching things, they're not that cute. I mean, yeah, it's a very
You've got
interesting bird to
condors,
have
Franco. I can't believe you're scared of owls.
Yeah. Well, imagine just walking around being stressed out about it, and then about the day or whatever is going on in the winery, and you go out and walk in the vineyards, and then suddenly a huge thing, because owls are not small. I mean, and there's a huge thing flying by it, and you wouldn't have expected. Yeah, I have a few jump scares about that, and it's very funny. But when I started working at Estancia Mendoza and saw this label, I remembered all of those things, and it's something that a winemaker can relate to, because we always seen these birds in the vineyards, these silent protectors. So it's very interesting. So the idea of making this wine is having, like you said, a 90s to 2000 profile, where Malbec is very easy to identify. We could pick the grapes mainly from Luján and Valle de Uco and Uco Valley, and we make a very silent wine. It's a reserva wine, so it means here, because of our legislation, it means that it's a wine that comes from a specific vineyards, and a specific variety such as Malbec, and a specific yielding, of course, and it has to be 1 year at least inside the winery before you can put it out to the market. So right now you're having the 2022, right, or 2021?
Yes. I have the 2022, which I assume is the same as everyone in the UK.
Good, because the 2022 is the harvest that we have out in the market right now. Before jumping to the 2023, is for us, it's not ready, because it's not been in the winery enough time. We can work on it. We can blend it.
Okay, correction. They have 2021 in the UK.
Oh, that's good. That's good, because it was a very good vintage and the wine is nice. Yeah. Honestly, I prefer the 2021 than the 2022. But the difference is very slight. That there's a bit more concentration of the fruit in the 2021 and less oak. So that's a very interesting thing for us.
Excellent. I think for me, this really does kind of embody that quintessential kind of Mendoza Malbec. at this kind of, mid-range price point where you've got a bit of those floral notes, some of that kind of lovely kind of ripe kind of plum note as well. You can feel a bit of that kind of chocolate coming through with that slight kind of oak influence, which certainly kind of adds that kind of touch of complexity to it. We have one comment here from Archie who says that the white Malbec does really well, and it showed particularly well for Malbec World Day a couple of weeks ago. It always stands up in the lineup, captures people's imaginations, and generated some really good orders for them. And the rosé, he says, is a lot of fun as well. I have another comment here from Rachel, who says that this Progreso Reserve is just such fabulous value. And I absolutely agree with that. I think, it's a really nice kind of taste of Malbec, a really good representation of Malbec, and a lovely balance to it as well. I'm a little bit aware of our time. So, Franco, I don't know if you have any kind of closing comments about what's so magical about Malbec for you, and then we'll invite Karim to join us.
Well, yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, for me, Malbec is as a winemaker when I started this career path a long time ago. I'm 34 years old, and my first vintage was when I was 21. So yeah, it's been 13 years since I've been working in the industry. And for me, Malbec have always been drawn. I've always been drawn to Malbec. It was my grandpa's favorite and my dad's favorite too. And I was always interested to see how it goes. Wherever you go in Mendoza, there's a Malbec vineyard. And wherever you go in Mendoza, there's one winery that makes the Malbec and they think it's the best. So this internal competition for having the best wine has made the producers and wineries to keep studying, to keep it in that. I think that is what makes it magical, because you don't stop. You're relentless, making different things about Malbec, planting in higher altitudes, planting in south of the province, planting in and bringing in more technology into the winery and bringing developing. I think Malbec is so resilient because it kind of matches with the Argentinian spirit of being relentless and always moving forward and always going into the direction where you can make it better. So yeah, it's very interesting. And it's magical in that way.
Beautiful answer. Wonderful, thank you. And Maria says that the 2022 is being shipped right now, and I can say that the 2022, which I'm tasting, is very nice. So that will be in the UK very soon. Thank you, Franco. Thank you for your time, especially on a public holiday. And if we can bring in Karim, then we will move to a slightly more kind of terroir focus on Malbec. So
yes,
now we're going to be doing a bit of the Uco Valley and also a bit of northern Argentina. So hello, Karim. Can you hear us, Karim?
Hello, everybody there.
Perfect.
Yes, perfect.
Super. So we're going to do a nice kind of Malbec terroir tour with you, because obviously Malbec is not only the champion variety of Mendoza, but it is the champion variety of Argentina. So first we're going to start in your, the real kind of heart of your winemaking career and production in La Consulta. Would you like to kind of tell us a bit about what makes La Consulta such a special region, and in particular for Malbec?
Yes, sure. Well, good evening, everybody there. Happy to share this the screen and the presentation with my colleagues, with Agustin and Franco. It's nice to share information from different sources that can improve the image of Argentina since Malbec became our flagship. We have been working for decades to tell people how Malbec adapted or expressed in different regions in such a big country like Argentina. Obviously, everybody talks mainly about Mendoza or Uco Valley, but I'm happy to participate today with two ambassadors from two different regions. I think it will be a great opportunity to compare what can La Consulta from Uco Valley can deliver, and what Abras from Cafayate from the Calchaquí Valley region can deliver. So side by side will be a great opportunity. I'm right here in La Consulta. I can split myself in two different regions that are 1,000 kilometers away. You have Mendoza City on your background, but we came today to La Consulta. We're finishing the harvest and enjoying the season. That it's the best moment to taste the new wines, especially when Malbec this year is split in like an early version at the beginning of the harvest and a later version after a few weeks of delay that we have this year when the ripeness stopped increasing or growing due to the weather conditions. So the first wine that you have here, it's a Malbec blend of 7 different regions, sub-appellations. On my back, we have the map of La Consulta, where I will show you, sorry, it is nicer. People will appreciate that we can put this information right here.
Karim was saying
we're at the
earlier
winery,
that
by the way.
he's in the winery because he's having a barbecue with his friends.
Well,
so it's a perfect day it's Labor Day here, so it's a perfect day for a barbecue in the Yucca Valley.
Yes, it's funny because this is the real La Consulta. We are in La Consulta, but this is the map of La Consulta where we can see our winery. Sorry, here. This is the city of La Consulta, and it's part of a big alluvial cone formed by the Tunuyán River that runs from southwest to northeast. And we have another very important formation called El Cepillo, that is a colluvial cone that comes from the mountains with a completely different exposition to the south and a completely different soil type. Here we have chockstone and sand, and here we have a classic alluvial formation that starts with very short stony soils in Altamira and goes down to more deeper loamy soils to the east, down to the 40 road. So for this Malbec, for Año Cero Malbec here, we get fruit from 7 different sub-appellations. We get fruit from El Cepillo, from Altamira, from Lotes Barraquero, from La Cañada, from Chacón, and also from a southern part in La Consulta. So every piece of Malbec, every single expression deliver a different flavor profile that allow us to build a larger profile that truly represent La Consulta. So when we talk about La Consulta, and sorry, I will to revert my camera now. Here's my ugly face again. So Consulta, we need to understand that the formation is so heterogeneous that to have a Malbec that represent a proper Malbec that represent La Consulta as an appellation, we have to take pieces from every single corner of the appellation. So we pick it at different moment, considering the earliest possibility to reach the highest fruit expression with the lowest tannin concentration. And later, that we fermented in small concrete vats that are right here inside of the winery, we make a big blend, a big batch, a single batch blend before malolactic fermentation starts. 1/3 of the volume goes to barrels that are down here in the basement, and the second third remains in concrete until the bottling at the end of the year.
Excellent. I think I always find that your La Consulta Malbec it's got such a distinctive character. As soon as you kind of open it, it takes me to Alto Cedro, but it also takes me to La Consulta. And I think, can you tell us a bit compared to the rest of, in a kind of snapshot idea for you, how is La Consulta different to the rest of the Uco Valley in terms of its Malbec expression?
Well, for me, it's the capital of the elegance, the uniqueness, mostly based on the amount of patrimony vineyards, pre-phylloxera rootstock that we found here in the 90s that survived to that crisis that you mentioned when Malbec suffered a lot of bad situations. And when Malbec reborn in the 90s, one of my theses at school was finding new vineyards, but sourcing from all vines patrimony vineyards. So that research gave me the opportunity to learn about the place, about the people. This place is plenty of Italians. Italians are people from another planet that came to this planet to conquer the world with good food, good music. So all the growers here, all the Italians, are very close to the ground, to the I don't know, the lifestyle of being a farmer or a vineyard farmer. That it's a lifestyle that you keep it for the rest of your life. So for me, it took me a few years to build this Año Cero expression, and I'm doing my own interpretation. But at the end, I think we developed something that is very unique, and it's compared with the average Malbecs that sometimes are flooding the market and are too branded everywhere. The curating capacity of Condor is based on choosing the unique expressions, like the ones from Franco that we already enjoy, and the next colleague that from Luján, from Casarena, that will be another interesting option to understand better about what Malbec can express, how Malbec can express.
Super. Richard has a question. Why is it called Año Cero?
Well, when I started
0.
here, yes, this is a very old British winery. I cannot make these comments with other importers from other countries, but inside the UK, you have a corner, a beautiful corner. So the Welsh family that used to work for the train company, for the British train company, moved here and built this winery. All the basement of this winery is built with Victorian bricks. And the house, the main house that we have here, it's a colonial British architecture, was the local discotheque from La Consulta for years. It's part of the beauty of this place. And obviously, when I started, I read, I learned, I studied a lot about the history of my surroundings. And it was easy to make like a Reserva wine, like a classic Bordeaux style wine, closer to the Argentine education from the 19th century, aging in barrels, fermenting in concrete. So that was like the easiest expression that we first customers start saying that our wines, newer wines, were Año Cero wines, were not young enough, or were not part of the new world that they were expecting from Argentina. So I said, well, we are not part of the new world. I don't like the new world. At that time in the 90s, California and all the big reds were like over doing everything, exaggerating everything. So the Año Cero concept became as our own interpretation of the new world, picking earlier to have more fruit expression and lower tannins or softer tannins. It's 100% native yeast fermented in small concrete vats and has partial oak aging. So the Año Cero concept, that is the name of the first vineyard that I planted in 1999, became the name of the collection, based on these winemaking protocols that are the same for the Tempranillo and the Malbec that are part of the same collection.
Super. I think the elegance of this wine, the freshness, the kind of cool temperatures that you get in SOP really kind of comes through. There's always this lovely floral note and slightly kind of sanguine note to it as well. I'm aware that we're running out of time and we need to move on. We need to move up into northern Argentina and Salta. But we do have one quick question from Fabian. Is Malbec ungrafted in Argentina? The answer to that is both. We have a lot of ungrafted Franco on its own roots Malbec and also grafted Malbec. Karim, do you know what percentage of Malbec in Argentina is ungrafted roughly?
No, and it's not exactly, because it changed every year, because a lot of new vineyards, they are mixed or hybrid, because a lot of people prefer to have a grafted new vines it comes with certain benefits, and some others that are continue planting new vineyards continue with the original rootstock that has another group of benefits. Here in the Uco Valley, I can say that numbers from before were like 50-50. But if you put the whole picture from Argentina, for sure the ungrafted vines will be more than the original rootstock. The grafted vines, sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, so let's move up to northern Argentina. Let's move to the Calchaquí valleys, and we've got Abras. So can you tell us a bit? I mean, we're obviously going to taste a lot of differences here in the glass. How does that change of altitude? Because we've gone from around 1,000 meters to 1,700 meters in altitude, and we've also changed latitude as well. How does that impact the actual grapes and therefore the wine?
Well, it's important, but I don't have the Calchaquí map here on my back. I cannot fly immediately or virtually to Salta province, Cafayate Valley, Calchaquí Valley, because it's 1,000 kilometers away. It's unbelievable how the Andes mountain formation allowed us to grow grapes in this high mountain desert, enjoying the continental weather from the very top, closer to the equator, to the very down in Patagonia, to the very south in Patagonia, closer to the craziest place to grow grapes in the world. The Calchaquí Valley, it's something that we have to understand. Most of the mountains that we have here are from the newest formation of the Andes that are only 35 million years. The Calchaquí Valley, it's part of the Precordillera, that it's a formation that finished here on the Cerrillos, that are 450 million years. So are completely different soil types, where the Calchaquí Valley is so closer to the equator that you have to take advantage of the altitude. So Cafayate, where the fruit for these wines come from, is the lowest part of the Calchaquí Valley at 1,700 meters. So the bottom of the valley is at 1,700 meters. There is how we get the benefit of thermal amplitude, the sun exposure, the very low rainfall, that are similar characteristic to the Uco Valley, but in a different part of the Andes mountain. So the concept of Abras is exactly the same of Alto Cedro Año Cero. It's 100% state fruit from a single appellation, fermented, aged, and bottled at the property. The fruit here come from 5 different vineyards in the Calchaquí Valley, surrounding the Cafayate city, from the very south in Tolombón to San Carlos, that is the northern part, from the very west in Yacochulla to the very east in Chimpa. So we get amazing fruit expression. We also take advantage of the diversity of every single corner that belongs to different soil types and formation from the Andes. And at the end, we put together all these 4 ingredients to reach this unique Malbec expression.
And it's delicious. I always think the Malbecs of the Calchaquí have such again, a really strong identity. This lovely intensity. They always have this brilliant intensity, but also great acidity to balance it out. The fruit expression changes so much from La Consulta. And I really love this wine very much. Archie here asks if there are different clones which are more successful in different parts of Argentina, or is it all growers' preference? Obviously, we have to layer into that question the way that many of these vineyards are planted, which is massal selection rather than clones. But perhaps we don't have much time, and it's a complex question. But Karim, can you give us your view on the different use of clones in Argentina and massal selection?
Yes, it's a good question, by the way, because it is also a way to promote this diversity and different type of Malbec expressions. But most of the decisions when you are planting a new vineyard are based on mass selection. Even when you get your own material and you get it to the nursery, you choose the vines that you like to be grafted on the American rootstock. Or don't forget that here in Argentina, we are allowed to, I'm happy to do mothering or the runners to keep the identity of the vines. So here every corner or every vineyard always keeps the DNA of the profile due to the mothering technique, that it's taking pieces from the same vineyard to create a new vine that takes 3 years, but it's the most beautiful way to keep the identity.
Super. And can you perhaps, a massal selection, I'm sure everyone's quite aware of what the massal selection is, but it's a population of different vines rather than just planting one clone. So I think you find that with the large majority of vineyards here, they're a population of different vines from massal selection rather than a single clone like you do in many parts of the New World. Rachel's comment about Abras is that there's even more of the black fruit flavors and more spice. So delicious, so different to the Yucco Valley. And I absolutely agree. I'm aware that we do need to bring Agustin in, but just to kind of echo Rachel's comment that it's lovely to actually see you in the winery. Thank you, Karim, for coming into the winery and showing us
very
La
briefly.
Consulta.
It will take me 30 seconds more to show you the surroundings. Well, this is the winery, and it's like every winery but built by British, so has some charm and things that are very interesting. Here we have the concrete tanks and the stainless steel tanks. It's a very nice building. We still use the same basket press from the 19th century.
Beautiful.
And here you can see the mountains. It's the most important thing for us here. So here we have one of our vineyards, the mountains, and the colors of the autumn that are beautiful right now.
Absolutely. Best time of year to be here. Fabulous. Thank you so much, Karim. Thank you for the wonderful tasting. And if we can bring Agustin in, we will finish our terroir tour of Malbec today. Ciao, Karim. Have a nice asado.
Ciao, ciao. Gracias, gracias.
So hello, Agustin. Thank you for patiently waiting to kind of present your wines. So Casarena, which for me really is one of the kind of the champion of Luján de Cuyo and expressing the terroir of Luján through its portfolio. Luján is very much kind of known as the cradle of Malbec. Can you perhaps give us an idea why Luján has such a strong connection, in particular with this grape variety?
Well, hi Amanda, hi everyone. As you know, Luján de Cuyo is one of the first regions that put Argentinian Malbec on the global map. And I think that's because of the this concentrate red fruits and silky and round tannins. I think that's the personality of Malbec from Luján.
Excellent. And this first wine, so we're going to be tasting your estate, which I think is, again, this is very much like Franco was talking about making his, his blend. This is really kind of putting together what you think the DNA of Luján Malbec is as a region. You said this kind of silky tannins. What is it that you look for when you're making the estate blend?
Okay, well, we own 4 different vineyards, all of them located in Luján. One is in Pedriel and the other 3 in Agrelo. What we do is to catch every expression of Malbec in our different vineyards. We start harvesting a little bit earlier in some parcels, so we can have the fresh expression, at a higher natural acidity, and then we continue harvesting on the right time, and what we end having, it's for me it's a wine that, as I say, it thrives with the jammy fruit and like it concentrates some fruit also, and the roundness. It's something that really represents Luján de Cuyo for us. If I talk about the vinification, this ferment in concrete vats, and then we age only 30% of the wine in barrels, and we use old barrels because we don't want that the oak overpower the Malbec expression. And during fermentation, we only keep the wine with the skin contact no more than 10 days, because we don't want to over extract, and we like this, and we look for this round and soft tannins.
Yeah. There's a beautiful kind of juiciness and approachability to this wine. It's really, it's very kind of supple, very kind of juicy, I think is the word that I would best use to describe it. A really enjoyable drink. And, that lovely kind of florality and bright fruit of Malbec comes through as well, for sure. A really nice wine for the price point, I think, which comes in at about £16 retail, £17 retail. And then we're going to move on to one of your kind of iconic Malbecs, the Naoki vineyard. And this is very, particular. I've heard this being compared to having kind of Yucca Valley soil with the climate of Luján. Would you say that's a kind of fair comment about Naoki, or how would you describe the vineyard and the particularities of Naoki as a single vineyard Malbec?
Okay, well, Naoki, it's situated in Agrelo, but the origin of its soils, it's different from as we typically know from Agrelo. That clay and sand. Naoki, it's a vineyard that was planted in 2010 in the top of a hill, right where Agrelo ends. And I think that there are like 3 key elements that make Naoki a unique terroir. One, it's that all these parcels, there are only 18 hectares divided in 23 parcels. So we have small blocks everywhere. And as is planted on the top of a hill, the parcels copy it's not the shape, but the contour of the land. So we have pendants, we have slopes, and we have different orientations, different sun exposure. So there are a lot of diversity within Naoki. Then as there was no other plantation before, we have a lot of native flora. That's the word, native flora.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
it's like this vineyard coexists with the indigenous plants, and that is something that we really want to keep, and we foment. And the last thing is a soil composition, because this is one of the vineyard that has a lot of gypsum on the soil. Gypsum is calcium sulfate. So we also have a calcareous soil, but we have a huge amount of gypsum. During the years, we have done more than 60 soil pits. We find this gypsum with different hardness, and then you can see in each parcel how it grows in a different way, and the texture in the tannins are also different. And I think that these things it's that make Naoki really singular.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite wines of your portfolio. I think it always really stands out. And as you said, that lovely kind of like wild herb note comes through. It's very beautiful, and it's very complementary to the kind of more fruit-driven flavors and floral flavors that you get in Malbec, with lovely texture, tension, and freshness. And I think this is definitely, it's a youthful vintage that we're trying, but I think this is definitely one of those Malbecs you could age for a nice 15, if not kind of 20 years. I know that, I just want to remind everyone that we've only got 10 minutes left. So if you have any questions or comments, please do type them in. Rachel says that the Casarena estate really sums up the quality of Casarena wines, which is great, juicy fruit flavors and beautiful packaging, which I certainly agree. And here, one thing I love about your single vineyards as well is also that you always kind of show the layout of the vineyard. How much kind of selecting does it come down to? Because you say you've got all these different exposures, parcels, different soil profiles. Tell us about, what percentage of the Naoki vineyard will actually end up in this final Malbec blend?
Well, there are 23 parcels. During during harvest, we need to walk through the vineyard and taste the grapes almost every day, because what happened in Naoki is that there is a small harvest window. If you need to catch the right ripeness and the fruit expression, and in this label, the single vineyard, normally we use maybe 7 or 8, depending on the year, different parcels. We ferment every parcel different. Then this wine is aged for 12 months in barrels. We only use 25% of new oak, because we don't want that the oak overpower the natural personality of the vineyard. And at the end of the aging, we blend it. But normally we use between 7 or 8. We try to use parcels where the gypsum has a lot of hardness, and the opposite way, that there is like a powder, so the texture of tannin are different, and we try to mix and blend to have the entire expression of the vineyard.
Excellent, fabulous. We have a quick comment from Lise asking you to show your t-shirt, and explain the names behind these single vineyards.
Okay, well, our 4 vineyards were named after the grandchildren of the owners. So we have Jamila, which is located in Pedriel. Then we have Naoki, Owen, and Lauren. So it's really easy to remember.
Naoki is definitely one of the more exotic names of the family.
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
a Japanese name.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's a really strong name.
It is. It's a really nice. It's a nice kind of distinctive name for a very distinctive vineyard and wine as well. Richard says that he's always been a great fan of the Naoki, but the estate is an absolute revelation. Sorry, I agree. I think the estate is showing beautifully today. Both of them are, in fact. And I don't know, Agustin. I assume you're probably at home, but I'm here at home, and on a public holiday like today, everyone's having their barbecue. So I just keep getting wafts of like Argentine asado coming through the window, which is making these wines even more appetizing.
And this holiday, you must make an asado on a barbecue. So.
Yeah, it's obligatory, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know that we're running out of time. I don't know if anyone had any more kind of quick questions for Agustin, but it's been such a pleasure to be able to taste these wines. And thank you so much for giving your time, on a public holiday and talking us through these. And my appetite is absolutely whetted. I'm desperate for an asado now, and I've got plenty of Malbec to enjoy with it.
We're joining you again now, just as you're wrapping up. There we go. Sorry, have I just cut in, Amanda? You were about.
No. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I don't know if anyone had any more general questions for the group of winemakers, but I think we've seen such a nice diversity of Malbec's expressions, and I think that's what makes Malbec such an exciting grape. I get the opportunity to taste hundreds, actually thousands of Malbec a year, and I really don't get bored of this grape variety at all because it reflects terroirs so well. It reflects kind of decisions of winemakers, personalities of winemakers too. And I think, it really is quite a magical grape in the story of Argentina.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, for me, it's like, watch out Pinot Noir. Because, Burgundy's got a few centuries on Argentinian Malbec at the moment. But I think, going forward, it's going to be held up with the same kind of esteem because I'm like you, we taste a lot of Malbec in my job, and it's just amazing. You get it from this particular vineyard or this particular vineyard or this particular aspect, and it just completely changes the expression of the grape while remaining always delicious. That's the key thing, isn't it? That's the magic for me. Malbec's magical because it's just not many people don't like that grape. It just seems to find, fans everywhere. That's probably the reason why it's so successful, of course. But yeah. Anyway, it remains to say, Amanda, thank you so much for hosting again. Really, really enjoyed the tasting. Fantastic wines. Fantastic winemakers. Thank you, all three of you as well, for joining us. And in Karim's case, thank you for the little tour there as well. Karim really brings Argentina alive for the people watching. Thanks to Franco, who started, and Agustin, who just finished us off. And there's a lot of mention of barbecues and asados. Well, amazingly, we have that kind of weather here in the UK today. It's 27 degrees. So, I can't think of a better wine to have lined up ready for your barbecues today. So get out there and get it all fired up. Remains to say, everyone, our next virtual tasting is the 3rd of July. Sorry, guys, this one's about chili, but, don't hold that against us. And that one's going to focus on 2 of our French winemakers, Thibaut from Hacienda Ricano and Benoit Fite from Vineyard Quingua. I'll finish there, but thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. And the 3 winemakers, thanks again for giving up a little bit of your Labor Day holiday to join us in the UK. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone, for this amazing opportunity to share our wines with you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Ciao.
Salud.
Salud.